Yo, 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 welcome in, welcome in. It's another edition, man, of the NBA team previews. We gonna we gonna jump right in. I appreciate you guys for being here as always. Shout out to my guy JR Sports. Shout out to Mitch. Appreciate you guys for being over on the YouTube page as well. Um, excuse me, I got a little something stuck in my throat. I think the weather changing messing with me just a tad bit, but we still got to work. We still got work to do, man. The goal was to get these NBA previews, these team previews done before before the preseason even kicked off, so we could bet preseason if it's available to us. And we're doing good, man. No days missed so far, and tomorrow will be the last day. We got the Houston Rockets and the Miami Heat. But as always, man, to the people who are new, welcome. I'm Chris, Crispy Capping on Twitter. I just really enjoy NBA basketball, betting on it, watching it, keeping up with it, whatever the case might be. So I decided to do these team previews. They're a quick highlight of everything that's kind of transpired in the offseason with each one of these teams. I'll be discussing additions and subtractions, a recap of last season, expectations for the up and coming season. Of course, I'm doing this to bring people back up to speed, kind of refresh memories of what happened last year, clarify roster moves, and last but not least, make us all better gamblers, right? We all want to be better informed bettors, right? I always say if you stay ready, you don't got to worry about getting ready. So that's what these previews are for, a chance to hold myself accountable. And for the people that's been rocking with me, I see Alex in here every day, Zay, NBA Props. You guys, I appreciate y'all. And I think, this is just a refresher course, kind of like a CPR. If you ever had to be CPR certified for any of your jobs, this is like a CPR refresher course, kind of, sort of. So yeah, that's why we're doing it. And then of course, like I said, 2 teams per day until the season start. We've done every single team, which means we've done 26 teams. Today we'll knock out the Orlando Magic and the Phoenix Suns. That's what you guys are here for. And then after that, tomorrow we'll wrap it up with the Houston Rockets and the Miami Heat. So tomorrow's tomorrow's Thursday. And we have NBA preseason right after that. So with no further ado, man, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Y'all know I don't like to waste nobody time, so we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. We're gonna stay on the East Coast first before we go out west and talk about the Orlando Magic. This team is going to look very similar to what it looked last year. If you're on the NBA, if you're on the YouTube stream, you can see I'm in the Orlando Magic locker room right now. I'm sitting in here; it's kind of empty. They probably out, doing some training camp stuff. Most of the guys do the training camps off site, out of state anyway. So I'm in the Orlando Magic locker room. But as far as this team, getting back to this team is going to look similar to what it looked like last year. They did make some moves. They didn't go completely silent, but as far as subtractions, they don't really have any additions. Of course, the biggest one, they get Paolo in the draft, first overall pick. A stud guy. They just so happen to get a number 1 first round draft, a number 1 overall draft pick, similar to what they did back in the day when they drafted guys like Shaquille O'Neal, when they drafted guys like Penny Hardaway. So it's going to be interesting to see, how transcendent of a talent he actually is. He definitely has the pressure put on him now, but he seems to do well with that in preseason, so much so that they shut him down early, right? Like I think he only played 2 games, and they're like, yeah, we know what we got, and we just kind of want to preserve you for the season so that you can help us win. Additional additions, Mo Bamba re-signed on a 2-year deal. He had his best year last year as well. Bull returned on a 2-year deal as well. Manute Bol's son. And then they also returned Gary Harris on a 2-year deal at the guard position, who is injured. He's going to enter the season injured. He ended up getting hurt last year. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So yeah, he doesn't have I don't think he's planning on starting the beginning of the season. Like I talked about, no subtractions at all. This team is going to stay, like I said, really much this, pretty much the same. It'll be a developmental year. Last season recap, Jalen Suggs was a guy. This team's extremely young, and I'm gonna hit on that a tad bit more too. Jalen Suggs was a guy who missed 34 games last season. Markelle Fultz was a guy who missed 64 games last season due to that torn ACL he had. Jonathan Isaac missed all 82 games. And then you have guys like Franz Wagner, who is a rookie. He'll get, his first offseason in, to kind of make his game a little bit better. He was presented a lot of opportunity last year, and he took advantage of it. This guy had a pretty good year for a rookie last year. Same thing for a second year guy like Cole Anthony, who also had a pretty good year last year. And that, like I said, Gary Harris, he tore his meniscus, and he's doesn't have a timetable for when he'll actually return. Although they did give him a nice little piece of change to come back, and he's actually one of the vets on this team. This team is extremely young. Outside of Gary Harris and Terrence Ross, everyone else on this team is 24 years of age or younger. So what that screams to me clearly is, rebuild and develop, of course, right? You want to develop the young talent and you want to keep rebuilding. This team didn't chase, right? They didn't chase any free agents, and instead they just decided to stick to the young talent that they had and, kind of let their young guys develop over the course of the season, right? Sometimes it could be pretty you can make impulsive decisions being a GM, and where you just want it just like this generation. You want everything to kind of be microwaved instead of cooked in the oven, and you want a quick turnaround, especially when you're in a market like Orlando. Orlando's not Cleveland, right? We know players will go to Orlando to play. A lot more attractions, much better weather. But they didn't jump the gun and give up too much. So clearly, like I said, they're trying to develop young talent. What does that mean for this team? They went 22-60 last year, worst record in the East, second worst record overall. Projected win total this year, 26.5 is what I saw that on Caesars. I am so of course what the books are telling us is that this team will win probably about 4 or 5 more games. That's for you to decide whether you like the over or the under. But this team is projected to win 4 or 5 more games than they won last year. To me, I think the projection seems probably about dead on to me. I could see this team going a few games over or a few games under this projected win total of 26.5. I think they'll be better this year if they can actually stay healthy, but winning 4 or 5 more games isn't necessarily guaranteed, especially in the Eastern Conference that's gotten a lot better, which we've kind of continued to talk about. And the potential for this team to kind of shut it down and get ready for the draft next year is also there. So that's what I'm looking at when I'm evaluating these win totals. Do I think that this team is going to, it's much easier for me to project the under because we know that injuries can happen. We know that trades can happen. Those type of things can happen. And typically they only allow your team to go under. But a projected win total at 26.5 already seems pretty low, right? But we do, like I said, we got to remember this team only won 22 games last year. I think that they could go over. You bring back guys like we talked about Mo Bamba already. Terrence Ross, he's the OG on that team. But we can't forget about the the key guys, the Markel folks on this team. The who am I missing out? It's a couple guys I feel like I'm missing out on. Franz Wagner, of course, his brother is there. Mo Wagner, Mo Bamba, and then Wendell Carter Jr. That's who I'm thinking about. Wendell Carter Jr. You can't forget about a guy like Wendell Carter Jr., who also had an elite season from the expectations I would say that he put on himself. Just elite season for him. I think he averaged somewhere around 13 or 14 points to go with 9.6 rebounds is what I was reading, which is a double-double. And that, that's a stride for a young guy, coming out of Orlando. So, like I said, I wouldn't really touch this. I think that, this team kind of lacking experience over the course of the season. Also, they had a really difficult time shooting the three-point ball last year. And we know that the elite teams can, knock down threes, and they have a bunch of shooters that can kind of spread the floor. This team struggled. When you think about this team, you don't think about a bunch of guys that can just, knock down a wide open three or create their own three for themselves, right? So not having that as an option kind of clogs up the paint. Of course, they have guys that can shoot, but will they be able to knock it down consistently is going to be, the key thing. And I don't think that they bought in a lot of shooters. I think, this team will just kind of continue to develop. I don't think that they'll, do anything crazy like make the playoffs or even make it to the play-in game. But I do expect this team to be a tad bit better than the 22-60 that they were last year. But for me, that doesn't mean that it's going to be exponentially better where I would want to take them over 27 wins. I hope that makes sense. And that's just my, kind of outside my perspective on this team. Even ATS wise last year, we saw this team finish 37-45 ATS, which is a lot better than their projected, than their, actual win total. But that was still the 8th worst ATS record last season. So, they had a string of time where, they put it together. That was more so towards the back end of the season before they shut all the guys down and decided just to tank. So I'm just looking for a team like this to continue to develop their young players. See how good they can be. They had a nice stretch where they were actually playing some really solid defense over there in Orlando. I don't know if people remember that, but that was probably towards the after the All-Star break, but before the last month of the season. So January, probably about March, they had a string where they were playing really good defense. I remember them upsetting the Golden State Warriors. I remember them knocking off the 76ers one night. I remember them beating the Brooklyn Nets one night, or at least going toe to toe with Brooklyn one night. I can't remember if they won or lost that game, but it's a sneaky team for sure. These teams will have value because the market will be daring you to take them, right? So you'll see the large point spreads when it comes to the Orlando Magic facing a team that has potential playoff or deep playoff potential, right? Like the Phoenix Suns or the Dallas Mavericks or the Philadelphia 76ers or the Miami Heat, right? You'll get large point spreads, and people don't like to take those dogs, and a lot of people don't bet on point spreads anyway, based upon the spaces that we had last year. I know some people do, but there will be value on certain nights, especially if you get this team on a they get a team on the second night of a back-to-back, and they have the fresher legs, and you get a large point spread. It's definitely going to be opportunities where we're going to look to back all of these teams, right? I'm a Laker fan, but I don't I look to fade the Lakers too if I found a big enough edge, and I think that's the key point, right? That's the key takeaway. So those are really my thoughts around the Orlando Magic. Before I finish, a couple key notes I wanted to mention before I finish up. Strength of schedule. They have the fourth most difficult schedule, right? Which doesn't bode well for them at all. That means that they're going to play of course it means that they don't have the strongest team themselves, but it also means that the schedule makers didn't didn't make the schedule in favor of them at all. They start the season off in Detroit. That could be a winnable game, even though I think Detroit is probably going to be better than I think Detroit is going to be better than Orlando this year. Then they go to Atlanta. That's going to be a tough game. After Atlanta, they come back home and they host their first game at home for their season opener, but it's against Boston, right? Then you go on the road and you travel to New York to take on the Knicks. You come back home. I'm sorry. After you go to New York, you go to Cleveland, right? So we're talking about the first 5 games. You got 4 of them on the road, right? And the only home game is Boston. That could be really, really difficult for them, right? And none of those games are, well, they do have a back-to-back where they have to fly from Atlanta back home and host the Boston Celtics the next day as a Friday and a Saturday. But none of those 5 games are going to be, a cakewalk. Then you get Charlotte at home. You go to Dallas, you go to Oklahoma City. So they travel out west, but then they fly back home to host Golden State, right? And Sacramento comes to town. They get a nice homestand where they get Sacramento and Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, Charlotte, Minnesota, all at home. So that's what 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They get 7 home games in a row. But you're playing Golden State, who probably gonna have that game circled because I'm pretty sure they remember that game from last year when they lost. Houston is gonna be better. Even Sacramento is gonna be better. Dallas, of course, is a playoff team. Phoenix is a playoff team. Can this team beat Charlotte? Of course. But Minnesota is on that list. And then you go a 3-game road trip to Chicago to play the Bulls. You get the Pacers back-to-back, which that probably will be a winnable game for them. And then you come back home and host the 76ers. And we're all the way, into Thanksgiving at this point. But yeah, just a difficult schedule for them, I think, to start the year, which is, why they are to have the 4th most difficult schedule of any team. So those are my thoughts on Orlando Magic. Like I said, not strong enough opinion for me to take the over or the under, because I do think this team will be a tad bit better, but a tad bit better than terrible is not necessarily good or great or average, right? They're still going to be a below average team when it comes to seeding in the Eastern Conference. But I do think that they, just based on getting their guys back, adding a guy like Paolo in the draft, I do think that they are, that could give them 4 or 5 more wins, which is why I'm not going to project, their win total at all. And I'm going to just stay off. If I don't find a big enough edge based on what I'm reading and all the data that I collect, I'm not going to take it. Right. So, and I think, that's how we should gamble. If we find a big enough edge, then it is not really gambling. It takes the guesswork out and you feel a lot more confident in your play, whether it's a over under for a season win total, or it's a player prop, or it's a spread, or whatever the case might be. So those are my thoughts. And I feel like I talked too much about the Orlando Magic, but like I said, all of these previews have been, a lot of work, and I just want to share everything that I kind of came across as it relates to Orlando Magic. Anybody agree with me? Anybody disagree with me? If you got thoughts on Orlando Magic, definitely request up. A lot of people probably ain't looking to them too much, which is totally fine. That's totally fine. But if anybody got anything on Orlando, definitely feel free, to request up. And I'll take thoughts and comments on the Orlando Magic and what they look like this year. But if not, we're not gonna leave a big window of time open for a team like the Magic. We can kick it straight to Phoenix and get into Phoenix as well. Um, so yeah, I don't see anybody, rushing to send me a request to talk. So let's go out west. Let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. That's probably why most people here anyway. A lot going on with this team, man. This team is a walking soap opera right now, right? We know that I'll just start, at the top, like always, with additions and subtraction. Then we'll get into, some of the things that they probably don't want going on that are, kind of transpiring right now. So as far as additions, they re-signed Aiden on a 4-year deal, which, Indiana, the Pacers actually had offered him the contract, and I think he was excited to leave this team. But then he was an unrestricted free agent, which gave the Phoenix Suns a chance to match the offer. And of course they did after a few, they matched the offer. They didn't want to let him walk without getting anything in return, which makes sense, right? Aiden is a young, promising talent. Some people think he's overrated because he plays with Chris Paul, but regardless, he's a young center that has championship experience, going to the finals. He can do some things on the offensive end, on the defensive end, and you don't want to just let him walk, especially without having anything to replace him with, right? They don't even have JaVale McGee anymore. We know he went to Dallas. He's going to be a part of the Mavs this year, and Coach Kidd actually said that he's going to start. They do bring back Bismack Biyombo. They signed him to a new deal. Devin Booker got re-signed, bought him back on a 4-year deal. He got his bag. They bring in Damian Lee. He agreed to a 1-year deal. Josh Okogie from the Minnesota Timberwolves agreed to a 1-year deal. Dwayne Washington Jr. agreed to a 2-way contract, so he probably won't get too much burn. And then Ish Wainwright. I don't know if you guys remember with Ish Wainwright, but he didn't get a lot of playing time. He did get some minutes last year when this team was, blowing out teams. They would put him in. So it's going to be interesting to see what his development is like as well. Just because a guy didn't get a, exponential burn last year doesn't necessarily mean that, they won't play a lot this year, or, at least have a bigger role. So not counting out guys like him, but he doesn't push the needle for me, I guess is what I'm saying. Subtractions. I talked about them losing JaVale McGee, who signed with the Mavs. They also lost backup point guard Aaron Holiday. He signed with the Hawks to back up Trae Young and DeJounte down there. And then you lose Frank Kaminsky, who didn't play last year because he was hurt for majority of the season, if not all of the season. Can't remember exactly how long he was hurt, but he ended up signing with the Hawks as well. So bench is going to look a tad bit different, but they are bringing back guys like Cam Payne. Cam Johnson's probably going to be inserted into that starting lineup, which they were already exploring anyway, because it's contract year for Cam Johnson, if you guys don't know. So they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson is a elite talent. We know that he can shoot the ball at an immaculate clip, at a really, really high clip. And, he can also, play defense. I honestly feel like he still hasn't grown into his body yet, being such a young guy. So when you get him in the weight room, he'll probably be able to guard, more threes. He has a nice wingspan. He can run the floor. And he's super poised. He has a poised confidence about himself that I really, really like about Cam Johnson. So with that being said, I kind of talked about that. As far as the last season recap, before I get into the offseason notes, we know how this team finished last year. Brutal loss. One of the biggest losses in sports history in Game 7, especially to be at home. The way that they lost that game after going 64-18 in Game 7. And I'm talking about Game 7 against, the Dallas Mavericks. They lost that game by 33. But a lot of people, I don't know if you guys remember, I don't know if I did the space or somebody else did the space at halftime of that game. And they were already down 30. I think they lost the first quarter by 10. The Phoenix Suns did. And they lost the second quarter by 20. Yeah, I want to say they lost the first quarter by 10, second quarter by 20. So they were already down 30. The fans, you could hear a pin drop in there. You could hear the crickets. I think everybody was just kind of blown away with how that season ended. So that's a lot to come back from. I listened to Coach Monty Williams talk about it yesterday. He said he kind of put that to bed, put the season behind them, let the guys kind of say what they needed to say about it. So it's gonna be interesting, especially with the veteran leadership that this team has in a guy like Chris Paul, if they can, psychologically how does a team bounce back from such a devastating loss like that? Luka, really owned them. We saw the memes with him, holding baby Booker in his hand with the bottle and the pacifier. Same thing with Chris Paul. Like he really owns them. So it's only right that they kick the season off, and I'm pretty sure that's their first game. Their first game is against Dallas. They'll be at home on opening night for them on the 19th. And that's an ESPN game as well. So definitely interested, to see what happens in that one. But this team they did extremely well. If people remember back, this team was a team that them and Golden State were, if you remember the beginning of the season, before the All-Star break, before the injuries started happening to Golden State, before Clay came back, they were kind of, if you remember back, they were going back and forth. They had both of those games televised when they played each other early in the season. And they were really good games. They were really good games. And their record, they were neck and neck. Both of them had a really good record, and we saw Golden State kind of fall off. But it really all meant nothing. We also saw the New Orleans Pelicans minus a guy like why am I forgetting his name? Like Zion Williams. Minus Zion Williams take this team to 6 games as well. So it's gonna be. I don't think the Suns got a lot better. Of course, they're coming back and they're probably gonna be motivated. But for me, how long can you keep that motivation? Because for me, I thought this team would have been extremely motivated last year, right? And the reason why I say that is because they had the 2-0 lead 2 years ago in the finals against the Milwaukee Bucks and lost that series 4-2, right? So how long can you hold on to that motivation? I think that's the most interesting part for me. Like, what is Monty, who I believe in as a coach, what is he going to do to get these guys ready? What is he going to tell them that they haven't heard already from him from a motivational standpoint? And I know a lot of people are, probably feeling like, some overreactions that's coming, from this team, from the media, given everything that's kind of going on. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about some of the offseason notes. So besides Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, re-signing, they also re-signed Monty Williams as well. Monty re-signed on a multi-year extension. We also got all the drama that came with Robert Sarvar, or I think it's how you pronounce his name, Sarvar, who was suspended for 1 year and fined $10 million for using the racial slurs back on, it's been over a month now, back on September the 13th. Now, of course, they, he has the team along with the Mercury that he owns in the WNBA as well, trying to get those sold. So a lot of drama, right? And I talked about this yesterday when I talked about the Boston Celtics and everything that's going on with Coach Udoka. This team, well, not even this team, these situations don't typically lend for a lot of reflection when they're all happening so quickly, right? Like I talked about, you hear people kind of talk about the impact of what's going on with them in the physical. And when I say the physical, in the physical moment over the last week, 2 weeks, 2 months, right? You need time to kind of process and digest that stuff. And you don't get a lot of that. You don't get a lot of that when the season's kind of right around the corner, when you're trying to figure out who the team's going to be traded to. You just kind of got to go into that, right? So these are major distractions, right? The team being sold. Everybody heard about Aiden and his beef with Coach Monty Williams. If you haven't, I don't know what you probably been living underneath a rock, because that came out yesterday and that was all over every news outlet and all over Twitter as well. So it's just interesting to me, and I see my guy DJ in the chat. I'm pretty sure he got some comments as well. But it's gonna be interesting to see this team overcome, the owner situation and selling the team. The Aiden and Coach Monty Williams beef, I think, has plenty of time to resolve itself before it impacts the season too much. We got to remember, this isn't the NFL or some kind of 10-game season, right? This is over the course of, the 8-9 months. There's plenty of time to watch how this kind of unravels, right? He is young, right? DeAndre Ayton is young. Is he mature enough does he have enough veteran leadership around? Is there going to be somebody in that organization that can reach him to reel him back in, right? So that he wants to be there. Because I ain't gonna lie, yesterday, Ayton looked like he was making $3.50 an hour, right? Like, this dude did not look like he wanted to be there. He just looked like he wanted to be anywhere else in the world. So plenty of time, and I know it's some overreactions, of course, but plenty of time to figure that out. But then additionally, besides those two things, you get everything with Jay Crowder. All of his, all caps tweets talking about, he wants to be where he's wanted. He wants out. He's not reporting to training camp, and he hasn't. So they're actively agreeing to, try to find somewhere, because he's still under contract, where he can go and, mutually it'd be beneficial for both parties. So, him outside of training camp. And he's a guy that brings a toughness to the team, a physical toughness and a mental toughness. He's, been in big, high leverage moments where he's, produced in those moments as well. So, how do they replace that? You don't replace him with a guy like Cam Johnson. Offensively, Cam Johnson is, probably already better. But defensively, from a leadership standpoint, the intangibles, right? That's what I'm interested to see, what comes of this team. And for all of those reasons, this team, like I said, won 64-18 last year, finished with the best record in the NBA, both Eastern and Western Conference. And we already see, I didn't look at the update based on everything that's, the Jay Crowder news and the Jay Crowder and DeAndre Ayton, saga. But this team was already projected only to win 53.5 games, right? So even the books pre all this drama had already thought that, they overachieved last year and probably wouldn't get back to 64 wins, right? So they're already projecting 53.5. It's hard for me to anticipate that this team will take the regular season, even serious, given what they did last year, where they ended up. CP3 is a year older, and, will maybe they start to, show some signs of load management, specifically in the regular season, so that they can get to the playoffs? Maybe, right? I'm not 100% sure what that looks like. Clearly, the conversation needs to be had between Ayton and Coach Monty Williams. We talked about that. And then losing Crowder and the way that they're going to lose him, to me, seems detrimental because, like I talked about, he was a dog on the defensive end. He brings a championship pedigree to this team as well. You insert a guy like Cam Johnson to the starting lineup, but then that also starts to make me question how much I want to trust that bench, right? We saw guys like Cam Payne play big last season, but we also saw guys like Cam Payne come up short in really big moments too, right? So how much depth does this team has? And when you take Cam Johnson off the bench, insert him into that starting lineup, and of course we don't know for sure if that's going to happen. It all depends upon, what happens with the trade and who they end up bringing back. But this bench just seems a little lighter to me, which makes it really, really difficult, I think, for them to consistently produce. So I'm not sure what's going to come of this team. They do have a pretty easy schedule, 22nd easiest schedule. I'm sorry, 22nd most difficult schedule, or you could say the 8th most easiest schedule as far as strength of schedule. And looking at their schedule at the start, you get Dallas at home to start the season. That's going to be a highly anticipated game. You travel to Portland. That should be a winnable game. You go to LA to play the Clippers. Then you get Golden State at home and the Pelicans at home. So those, right off the gate, those are what, 4 championship contending teams. I would say teams that we all predict to finish top 5 in the Western Conference. You get 4 of them right off the gate, right? So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. After that, you get Houston. That should be a winnable game. You get Minnesota, another team that's going to be contending in the Western Conference. You get Portland twice. Then you go on a nice little road trip, 4-game road trip, where you get Philly. You go to Minnesota, you go to Orlando, and you finish it off in Miami before coming back home and hosting the Golden State Warriors. So I know this team is good, and they have a bunch of televised games too, probably more than most teams. But I think that the lack of depth really hurts. I'm a big fan of Bismack Biyombo and what he brings on the defensive end. Him donating this whole salary, his whole year salary to his country last year, is definitely commendable as well. I'm a big Biyombo fan, but I don't know if he's enough to stir the needle. Over on the YouTube comments, I see Sid said, appreciate you being here. He said not having McGee and Crowder is going to hurt. I agree, and that's what I'm getting at, right? McGee plays for the Mavs too. He's definitely going to be, out, to see what he can do against his old team, and share the tricks of the trade. Because once you're on a new team, it's all free game. Yeah, said I remember the Falcons after the Super Bowl and they were wrecked. This is the same thing. Yeah, a lot of the times, you don't bounce back well. Now, granted, they still have Devin Booker. He's a guy that can get his own shot at any given time, but that's not enough, right? Chris Paul, like I said, is a year older. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be real interesting. Said I think the Suns will take a big step back mentally. That Game 7 took a toll on them. I agree with that. After the Knicks game, Cam really fell off badly. Yeah, I would agree with all this. Yeah, I definitely would agree with all this, man. I think I'm interested just to hear from you guys. Like I said, with the win total already being projected 10 games below, I'm not going to rush to the window to bet this, even though I think they take a step back. The book's already anticipating it. It's baked into the line that they're going to take a step back. Are they going to take a big enough step back to where they don't even win 54 games? That's going to be interesting to me, because they do have championship pedigree and they still do have a lot to prove, even though we do all agree that, so far that it's going to take a big toll on them. So those are my thoughts, man. Let me know what you guys think. If anybody got thoughts on the Phoenix Suns, definitely request up. I knew my guy Jehovah would be in the building because he's humongous on the Phoenix Suns, and I definitely want to hear what he got to say. So, Jehovah, I'm gonna kick it to you, bro. I appreciate you being here. Tell me what you're thinking about your Phoenix Suns this year, man. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I agree with what you said about the bench. We're going to be a little thin on the bench because losing McGee is really big, and a lot of people aren't speaking on that enough because he's just kind of a role player, and you can't really start him and play him a lot of minutes. But if you watch McGee all last year, the quality of shots he took, you see he worked on his game. He's shooting a fade away from the post. He's got the hook shot down packed.
Mm-hmm.
McGee was a big help off that bench.
Absolutely.
So losing him, that's going to hurt, but also Dario Saric as well. We get Dario back, and I'm glad he played in overseas because he looks a lot quicker. He's slimming out, and he's getting back in form, and we're definitely going to need that off the bench. But you said our projected wins were what, 53?
53 and a half is what I had it at. But I didn't look at it updated, Joe. But this was all of probably last week before all of the drama started to come out. So while you keep talking, I'm gonna look it up right now and see what I can catch it at.
I'm not going to lie, as a Sun, I'm obviously a Suns fan. I think we are going to take a step back, but I don't. I like 50. I see us winning between 52 to about 55 wins, but I think Ayton. This is what I believe. I was always on Ayton's case since we drafted him because his just lack of aggression at times. But I think this upcoming season, he's gonna make an all-star push. I think he's gonna be an all-star. After all what happened, especially that Game 7, Ayton's gonna have to come out and have something to prove. Not just to everybody else, but mostly to Monty, because I was one of the people who said I was tired of Ayton. I was just sick of the lack of aggression. I wanted him gone. But then I said, we're in the West. We need a big. We ain't going to win unless Golden State won without having a natural big, so to say. But for the most part in the West, I still think you need a big, a quality big. And Ayton, his percentage shooting a hook shot over the left and right shoulder is, I think, over 50%. So he's a skilled big, and we just got to keep him. But about that media day, the other day with I didn't like it. I don't think it was a good. I think it was just bad for the moral of the team, especially dealing with Sarver and just and Jay Crowder as well. And then Ayton, it just seemed like he just wasn't interested. he's saying he hasn't spoken to Monty, and then Monty goes and says he hasn't spoken to a lot of players. They needed space and whatnot. But I think early in the season, we're not going to fly out the gate, winning all these games, beating teams by double digits. It's going to, like how it was, we're going to have to build, fight through the adversity. It's a young team. We're dealing with a lot. But I think, like I said, the Suns are definitely going to win about 50 games for sure. This is going to come down to playoffs and matchups. But I think we're still fine. Do I think we're a finals contender right now? That's tough. I ain't gonna lie. As much as I want to say we are, that's tough.
Yeah. So Jehovah, based on what I'm hearing you say, it sounds like to me that you wouldn't touch this projected win total over 53.5. Am I correct in saying
Over
that?
53. I think that's spot on.
Right,
I
right.
think
You like you said, you can
spot
see this team winning 52 games. You can see them winning 50 games or 55 games. Is what you're saying,
I
right?
can see them. 48 is the lowest, but I still think 48 in the West right now gets you what? Is that a fifth? Where does it get you? 48 wins in the West. I'm not sure where that'll place you. I don't know the standings off my head, but I know Phoenix they're going to drop off. But also, Chris Paul isn't going to be playing a lot of the minutes.
48 wins last year. Jehovah would have put you in sixth place. Denver finished 48 and 34.
You said six?
You sixth place. Yep.
I'm not gonna lie. I would take that. I would take that. The 6th seed coming into the playoffs, and you still got a Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DA, Mikal Bridges, and I didn't mention we picked up, who is it from Golden State? Lee, the point guard.
Damian Lee,
I'm not too high on him though. I like the guy from San Antonio, Landell, I believe. I think he's an agile big. He can defend as well, and he's a great screen setter.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing with DA too. This man, I just like Biyombo can set better screens than him, and that's why when Ayton was out and Biyombo was in the game, that pick and roll looked beautiful. And Biyombo doesn't bobble the balls, but Ayton has small. See, I don't want to do this because I'm trying to. I was. You would think I would be an Ayton hater and also a Suns fan, but it's just the truth, man. Watching him at times, I was getting Kwame Brown flashbacks just in the pick and roll. The pick and roll and rebounding, because his hands are small, and when he goes to rebound, it's usually tip boards to himself. He doesn't go up and grab a board. When he has a smaller guy on, like even in against Dallas, there were times when Brunson was on Ayton off a switch or just in bad position, and Ayton shooting hook shots. I'm like, yeah, you shot a great percentage from the hook from shooting a hook shot, but Ayton dunk the damn ball. Like, you have a guard on you, and I was saying that about Mikal Bridges as well. He's one of my favorite players on this team too. But offensively, I want to be a little bit more aggressive in the mid range. I want to take a bit more mid range shots. I don't want to see him dribble too much. I think that's what Cam needs to work on. But if Cam wants to start, that man got to play perimeter defense. Because I watch a lot of Suns game, and I've seen that man get cooked.
Jehovah,
I was getting a call.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you still there?
But I seen Cam get cooked by a lot of guys, backups and the backups on the perimeter. Because he can't. He's just slow. I think I don't know. I think next season it's gonna come down to Monty. Okay, yeah, the Suns. We bringing Monty Williams as the coach. The Suns won 60. We won 60 games back-to-back seasons last year and the year before. And okay, yeah, we could win in the regular season, but now I think this is going to test Monty Williams out. After all this adversity, we already talked about A.N., everything, Sarver. Now, can Monty get everybody locked in, focused on the bigger goal? Because I do think we're not going to be every night is not a must win, but play hard every night. That was probably a bad terminology because you should play hard every night, but just.
Certain games just don't mean as much. Yeah, and I get what you're saying. Certain games just don't mean as much.
Yeah, that's why in those games, I think CP will be sitting out. We're going to run. And that's another thing. I know I'm going on and on and on, but when Chris Paul was out, we seen Devin Booker play the one, and he looked good playing the one. We seen Campaign play the one. and he looked good. He looked really good playing the one, especially passing and playmaking. Yeah, sometimes when Cam is in his head, he shoots a lot of erratic shots and he's all over the place. But for the most part, we got guys who can run that one position. I do think we should have got at least a little bit more aggressive picking up a backup point guard. But I think Monty trusts Cam's development. And this year's going to be a testament to Monty. After everything's going on, I want to see how Monty can handle this. At the end of the day, it's the coach. We'll try to get everybody together and get us on board.
Yeah, he got his work cut out for him this year, Jehovah. I looked on DraftKings real quick at that win total, and it's actually come down to 52.5. So it's been dropped one game. The under 52.5 is a minus 125, I think. So yeah, like I said, no strong play on that, because like I said, it's baked into the line. They already got them losing, 12 more games than they did last year. So that should be about right. And then you don't necessarily get to make money off them losing, 10 more games. So yeah, I appreciate your commentary though, Jehovah. I appreciate you keeping it real too, man. Because I know those are your guys, and you had to fight for them last year, for a large part of the season.
And people still on my head for not showing up in the Twitter spaces after that game, after that Dallas series. Like it still hurts. I'm not gonna lie. Like as a Suns fan, a lot of things hurt. That 07 year against the Spurs, where the Spurs cheated us, that hurt a lot. But Robert Horry hip check-in, I can go on and on, but it still hurts. But like I said, next season, couple weeks, it's time.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see Dallas. I cannot wait to see Dallas again, because I'm telling you, that win was a fluke. The win was a fluke. And everybody who watched that game, Game 5, Game 6, how they were calling the game against Chris Paul, they were picking on him, they were nitpicking. That Chris Paul, I don't want. See, I'm gonna go on a tangent. I don't want to do that to the space.
Yeah, no. It's all good, Joe. It's all good, bro. We go on opening night.
Let me get this last thing out.
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say opening night. We can talk more about that game.
About Chris Paul, I think I don't know. I think we got outplayed. I don't think we did. We got outplayed. Dallas shot the lights out, but those refs, man, like you can't look back at that game and say, okay, yeah, the Suns are getting outplayed, but come on, bro. Being down, how much we down? 30 at the half?
30 at half.
I ain't never see the Suns down 30 in the half since probably Tyler Ulis was the one, or freaking I don't even remember since Alex Lynn was in the lineup. that's like, come on now. This Sun, and look how he officiated the game against Chris Paul. They were calling touch fouls on Chris Paul in the playoffs. And wasn't it Devin Booker who was screaming to the referees saying that it's the playoffs? I think it was game 1. He was screaming at it's the playoffs. Why are we calling it so everything's a touch foul? But Luka's every time down the floor, he's backing you down, throwing a shoulder into you. Him and Brunson put on a flopping masterclass, and everyone wants to talk about Chris Paul this, Chris Paul that. Like, I'm not a CP fan. I think Steve Nash is my point guard, but I still respect Chris Paul. And you can't look at Chris Paul. What was he, top 10 in MVP votes at 36, 37 years old? And then he gets to the play, and you see what in the series. I know you want to go that far. The series against New Orleans, where you go 14 for 14. Like, come on now. And then against Dallas, he looks like I've never seen. I don't know if that was
just Yeah, Joe. Let me see. Joey said that that beatdown in Game 7 will kill a team morale like we saw yesterday. That's a fact. Shout out to Wham in the chat too. I know Wham probably can't request up, but shout out to the OG Wham for being here too, bro. I want to kick it to Zay real quick. Zay, tell me what you think about these Phoenix Suns, bro.
Man, for real, I think they got it right with the betting house got it right by dropping the Phoenix Suns win total down to 52. I agree with your boy Jehovah. I don't see him winning. I don't see him winning more than 52 games. Which is still not 52-30 is still not a bad record, especially in the West. That can get you top 4. But I just feel like with the Sarver thing is a major issue. But Chris Paul had already been through that, so he can lead these young guys through that and get them to come out on top and play because of what he had to go through in the Clippers with Donald Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
So that I don't really see being too much of an issue. My thing is, because remember I talked to you off mic about DeAndre Ayton because I saw the clip
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, and then I looked at it again, like his body language looked like he didn't want it. Chris, this man signed an offer sheet to go to Indiana. We both know Indiana's not going anywhere no time soon. So that tells you he wants to get out of Phoenix.
Yep.
He's leaving the team that went to the finals 2 years ago to go to the Indiana Pacers.
He wanted to take his money and ride off to the sunset, Zay. He didn't want no expectations, man.
Man, yeah. I'm all about players getting their money, get your bread, take care of you, your family, and your future. But somewhere along the lines, man, I'm not gonna pimp myself out and go to Indiana. That's just me, man. That's just me because, like, Chris, we come from the same, we about winning, but we also want the money too. But I think winning is just puts you in a different echelon among your peers, man.
Yeah, and then also if you win at the highest level, the money will come, right? You'll get endorsements. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So yeah, I'm with you. He did look like yesterday that he signed for a tenth of he signed a $250 contract for he had that's all that Phoenix was offering him to come back. It was bad, bro. It was bad. Like I said, I don't want to make too much out of it, to start, but it, like you said, body language. Monty, like Jehovah was saying, Monty kind of downplaying it, like, yeah, when they came in the gym, I was, up in my office and I didn't come down, like try to, give them their space. Like all that sound good, but I mean, we haven't heard this from anybody else throughout the whole season, and that just seemed like a really long time not to touch base with a guy that you gonna give so much money to. You know what I mean? So it's a really weird situation. I think, like I said, they still got plenty of time to kind of figure it out over the course of the season.
Chris, exactly. You're the head coach. You just signed Aiden after this seemingly long off season. At least every once in a while, invite the man for dinner or just or lunch. Like nothing, not even a hey, are you feeling well? This is a great start to see. Just something like no contact.
So for me, Jehovah, I think it all goes back to how last season ended, right? Because when was it? Was it the third quarter or was it halftime that Coach Monty pulled them out and then put him back into the game, right?
I think it was going in the half.
I think it was going into the third quarter. I think it may have happened in the third quarter.
And never put him back in the game, right? Like just didn't let him play the second half for the most part. And I think to me, it sounds like that was never addressed. So when you bringing up situations that, you still got some really drastic feelings about, some intense feelings about, and it's not addressed, all that's just underlying.
But I think the media is downplaying because I think a lot may have been said in that, because from what I understand, they got into like a heated argument on the sideline, but I don't even think the camera caught it. But
yeah, I heard a couple stories too. I heard Monty asked him to get in the game, and Aiden said no, he didn't want to get in the game down 30 or whatever the case was.
I heard the same thing, so I feel like some words were exchanged, and I think the bridge may be burned for right now. It's gonna take some time to rebuild it.
I agree.
But if it doesn't get better, you have to get off DeAndre Ayton because it's just gonna be toxic. You already got your front office in shambles. You don't need one of your core players doing the same thing. So it's either you have to. Monty is the adult. He's the coach. He's the leader. He has to step up, take responsibility, smooth things out with Ayton. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna take time, but if he can do it, because I mean, a lot of people around the league and players respect Monty, so it's not like he can't do it. He's just going to be patient with it.
Right. Okay. No, I agree. Go ahead, Jehovah. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish, Jehovah, and then I got a question for everybody. And then we'll finish up.
I was just gonna say it's gonna be on Monty. And I think what I believe what should happen early in the season. You Aiden want more touches. You go give him those touches. He was getting about what was the stat? I gotta look through my bookmarks because it's saved in there. But if the space is still about.
Okay. No, that works.
For people to keep calling me.
No, you good.
But I was just gonna say, give Aiden his touches. Give Aiden, if he's so efficient, give him the touches. Make Aiden. You want to be that all-star. You just got paid all this money. You better not come out starting the season averaging 13 points and 6-7 rebounds. After we just paid you all this money, you went through all, and you had a media day where you were so disinterested and no, get your touch. Come out, start the season. Give me 20 and 11. I don't want 20 and 10. Give me 20 and 11. Still shooting over 50% from the field. And I want to see Aiden shoot the three more as well. Shoot the perimeter shot more as well. Mid range.
Yeah.
But I think Monty just got to run plays through him. But on the contrary, from what I've seen when Chris Paul's on the floor, it's Chris Paul who gets Aiden going because most of Aiden's points are coming from Chris Paul. And either screens or pick and rolls. But I was saying last year too, yeah, we were good during the regular season. I wanted to see Aiden and Booker on the floor more when Chris Paul wasn't on the floor because it was Aiden and Booker before CP and they had a chemistry. They still do have chemistry. But there were times when they wouldn't be on the floor together. I'm like, Monty, why is Aiden always on the floor with CP? Get Booker in there so he can be a little more flexible in the pick and roll, rather because Chris Paul's not running off from the screens going to the basket. He's going to be patient and just play off the defense. So I want Aiden to come out, be aggressive. Monty got to be the guy, give him the ball, run plays through him. That's all.
Yeah, we're gonna see how that's gonna work. We definitely gonna see how that work. I'm just curious now that we've had this conversation though, like, what are realistic expectations for the Phoenix Suns this year? Like, it don't sound like anybody think they're coming out the West. Do they get home court advantage and finish in the top 4 in the West, or do they fall to 5 to 8 and have to go travel? Because that's a big step back from a team that had championship aspirations and had the best record in the league last year and went to the finals 2 years ago.
I feel you, Chris, but I feel like I don't think they're going to be in the play-in tournament, so I'll give them between 4 and 6. But I don't see I can't see them depending on their first round matchup. I don't see them getting past the second round for real.
Yeah, you look at the schedule. We do anticipate Memphis to take a step back. We expect Memphis to take a step back. Golden State will probably be a tad bit better if barring injury and setback for them. Dallas, I think, takes a step up. Utah will take a step back, of course. We expect Denver to be better. We expect Minnesota to be a tad bit better. New Orleans is going to take a step up, and the Pelicans, right? These teams that finish 7, 8, and 9, I think, all take a step up. And it's only really one team that we know for sure is going to take a tremendous step back out of the top 6, and that's of course the Utah Jazz. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then we still got to make room for my Lakers because Bron and AD gonna have something to say about all this too. I'm just kind of wanting to kind of talk that part out because I do think it's interesting to kind of figure out. I know it's a lot of moving parts. The teams getting traded, getting sold, and not just that either though, Zay, because like you mentioned, you made a good point about Chris Paul and having to go through that already with the Clippers, but he had to go through that after having having the season end so horrifically last year. Like that's 2 components. Then you lose Jay Crowder, right? You're not going to bring in a guy. Most likely, you're not going to bring in a vet that's going to be able to replace Jay Crowder, just off one person, especially what he bought from the defensive end and just his tenacity. You know what I mean? So all of those things are interesting. And Euphoria over in the YouTube comments got a really good question. He said, "What are the trends for a team that fails to trade for the whole team to trade their whole team for KD?" And I kind of forgot about that, Euphoria. But yeah, they were a team that thought they was gonna get thought they went out and tried to get KD. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Euphoria also said Timberwolves are going to be better than the Suns. That's gonna be interesting to see too. I think I gotta see the Timberwolves unfold, but they do have
Stop it.
I knew Euphoria wouldn't like that one, but I do want to see just what transpires with the Timberwolves as well. We did their team preview already. But yeah, we've been on here for close to an hour, man. I appreciate Zay. I appreciate Jehovah. I appreciate you guys for chiming in. Everybody in the YouTube comments as well. But yeah, that's it, man. If you joined late, we previewed the Orlando Magic first before we got to the Phoenix Suns. Yesterday we did OKC and Boston, and tomorrow we're done. The Houston Rockets and the Miami Heat, same time, 5:15 Eastern time. Last two teams. If you missed any of these, you can go watch the replays over on YouTube. I got a link posted up top in the Twitter space. But my YouTube is the same thing as my Twitter handle. Crispy Cap and 2 P's 2 N's.
Wait, you talked about Orlando already?
Yeah, I talked about Orlando. They was first, Joe. You got here late, bro.
Yeah, I missed it.
Yep. It's over on YouTube though. Nobody chimed in, so look at that joint. Tell me what you think. Shoot me a DM afterwards. It's a quick breakdown too. It's only about 8-9 minutes. So, let me know what you think about that. And yeah, every other team that that we've that's in the NBA has been talked about to this point. I've literally done every team except the Houston Rockets and the Miami Heat. That'll be tomorrow. And that's all I got for you guys. I appreciate you guys for being here. If you're over on YouTube, tell somebody about the channel, man. Like the video. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you guys for coming through. Best of luck on your MLB bets. We get some NFL tomorrow. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow. I appreciate you guys for stopping through, man.
All right. Hey, Chris, one quick question.
Yeah, what's up?
Last one. Are you betting on preseason?
If I can find an edge, Jehovah, I'm looking to bet on anything, bro. My man, I think the greatest quote I ever heard about, betting on things outside of what you know is my guy. Shout out to Punt School. Shout out to Josh. When I did the behind the curtain with your favorite Kappa episode, he said, I bet on 2 cockroaches running down the street if I can find the edge. If I see one of them with a gimpy leg, I'm betting on the other one. And I think it's all about that, right? It's all about being able to find that edge. If I can find the edge in the preseason, Jehovah, and I feel like I can, right? I got 38 pages, I think it's 43 pages of notes, right? NBA offseason notes with every team's additions and subtractions and key guys that I'm going to be looking at and who's injured to start the season. So who's expected to play more minutes, right? Who's in the developmental stage where I think the coach is going to play them more. So if I can, find the edge over, I'm definitely going to be playing. And of course, if I play it, I'll tweet out my plays for sure too. And, probably even, do a couple of spaces during the preseason. But yeah, and if for anybody who, joined late, I've been talking about this first preseason game on Friday. Preseason game is on Friday. Friday, the Golden State Warriors will not host, but the Golden State Warriors will be in Japan playing against the Washington Wizards. That game actually comes on at 6 a.m. So if you're on Eastern time, so if you're on the East Coast, I'm gonna be up. I'm always up at 6 a.m. So I'm gonna be checking that game out. And then we also get another game. I think the Milwaukee. I don't know if it's the Milwaukee Bucks or not, but I know the Atlanta Hawks are playing in Abu Dhabi. So that's another preseason game that's going to take off. These games are televised on NBA TV. So it ain't like you got to go, to a large, depths to watch them. So definitely, want to check those out and see what Kerr got for the development of guys like Kuminga, because I'm pretty sure he's going to get a lot of playing time. If you watch the video, Clay already said he's just going over there to eat some seafood because they got the best seafood in the world. So he probably not looking to, play too hard. But yeah, we get NBA basketball, and y'all know my eyes are always open when it's basketball season, bro. That's what I'm doing. So yeah, Jehovah, to answer your question, I will be looking to back some some teams if I can find a big enough spot for sure.
All right, bet. What you were talking about Golden State real quick? What's the story with Wiseman? Is he playing or is he still out?
I think let me go to my notes real quick because I can't remember. I got so much going on in my head. I want to say Wiseman. I know he gonna be.
I just want to see him on the floor. I want to see something.
He gonna be on a learning curve for sure. Like he just gonna have to. Figure some things out. But I want to say I don't know if he's projected to be. I want to say yes, Jehovah, but I ain't 100% sure. I'll DM you. I'll figure it out and DM you if he gonna actually be there and how many minutes he gonna get, because I watched a little bit of the media day, but I didn't see him go to the podium at all. So I'll figure that out, because that's another guy I'm interested in watching as well. Him, Wiseman, see if he can learn on the quickness over there, and Kuminga for sure. Jordan Poole was working out with Steph, training coach trainer throughout this off season. So I'm interested to see if he takes his game to the next level, even though he was already, a really good 6 man of the year candidate last year. But yeah, I'll figure it out, Jehovah, and shoot you a message for sure, bro. And that's it, man. Like I said, appreciate you guys for rocking with me. If you're on YouTube, definitely check out, definitely like and subscribe over there. Tomorrow, same time, Rockets and Heat for the last preseason for the last, NBA team preview for the 2022-2023 NBA season, man. I appreciate y'all for being here. And like I said, best of luck on your MLB bets and your NFL bets for tomorrow.